Okay, we shall continue again on the last part of the food processing. Okay, as you can see that the factors that affecting texture. Okay, factors that affecting texture of food. Okay, include changes in macromolecule and micromolecule. Okay, macromolecule is actually all these food components that is contained at high percentage in food. For example, we have carbohydrate, we have proteins, we have water, and we have the lipid. Okay, those are macro components. When we say micromolecules or micro components of food, it includes the vitamins, minerals, and other components, pigments, colors. Okay, so the changes in macro and micro molecules. For example, heating will affect on the gelation, on the gelatinization, and also caramelization. Okay. These also affect the changes in moisture content. Okay. Moisture content as well as the pH, because we talk about how different food processing or food affecting its texture will have an effect of the pH. Okay, and chemical interaction between biochemical compound, for example, ripening in fruits, and also rigor-mortis in muscle product. Okay. Presence of extrinsic factors, this one also very important. For example, we have oxygen. Oxygen will cause high rate of oxidation. So if you know that your product will be prone to oxidation, then you have to cautious. Then you have to add a bit of oxygen scavenger, for example, in your packaging. Those are the examples of precautions that you have to do in order to reduce the oxidation, because oxidation is also part of food deteriorations that will occur in the presence of oxygen. Okay, and then, for example, some food components, for example, vitamins, will also some of the vitamins will also deteriorate if there is light, because light can also cause photo-oxidation. Okay, so for example, you have to have like secondary packaging, or you have to cover or pack your food in a darker container, or container that block the light into the food. Okay, because of this photo-oxidation. And lastly, it is the disruption of the food network or food structures. So these are the texture, that is the factors that will affecting the texture of the food. Okay. Factors that will affect the texture of protein-based products. Okay. I think you have learned this some of it in the protein lecture. Okay, so if you understand the protein and why it happened, the reaction happened that way, you'll be able to understand what are the factors that affect the texture, especially in protein-based products. Okay, so we have high protein food, like example, meat, eggs, and whatnot. And we also have alternative proteins like from plants, for example. Okay, so proteolysis, what does it mean by proteolysis? Lysis is something that is breaking down of the protein. If it's lipolysis, it's breaking down of the lipid. So if we say proteolysis, it is a breaking down of the protein. Okay, because we know that protein made up of these myofibrillar connective tissues. These are like structural. Protein are very important in structural components of animal, of plant, for example. So when there are factors that will break the protein, okay, so proteolysis will occur. For example, we have these enzymes, we have these heat. So those are the things that will break down the structural. So when you affect the structural components of the muscle or the animals and plants, so it will affect the texture. Okay. And then for muscle products like meat, so if you, as much as possible, for people who handle meat and meat products, they will avoid rigor mortis at all costs. Because when the meat is being changed, or when rigor mortis happen, it will form like hard compound, textural hardly compound texture, where you don't want that to happen. Okay. And then degradation of nucleotides. Why degradation of nucleotides is important, or affect the texture of protein-based product? Why do you think nucleotides have an effect to protein? Okay, please find the answer. Okay, go back to the original, or go back to the core structure of protein. Okay, right. Then the next parameters is the temperature of storage. Temperature, because it involves heat, as we know that heat will affect the protein. Okay, so if you have higher heat, then protein will denature. So that's why the temperature and also duration of storage, because protein will also denature if you store it for a long time. Okay, at certain temperature. Okay, for example, that's why some of the food, it has the storage time and storage temperature, the expiry date or best before date. Okay, because of this reason, many reactions will happen between or in the food system. Okay, muscle soften is prolonged. Muscle soften is prolonged storage in ice. Okay, muscle soften will be prolonged if the storage is in ice. Okay, and also pH decline. Okay, pH will decline. When pH decline, it will cause the poor holding water capacity. Because go back to your protein structure. So that's why it's important to understand all these components individually. So this is where, during food processing, where you really apply what you learned in water, in lipid, in proteins, in carbohydrates. This is where you will use it. It is not just studying the chemistry. You also have to understand, because food involves processing. You have to process the food. And during processing, things will happen or reaction will occur depending on what types of reaction that occur. So you really have to understand the component, the chemistry of the component, because this chemistry during food processing will affect the functionality. Okay, functionality and also the texture. Because of this functionality and the texture will affect the end product that goes to the mouth of the consumer. It will affect the flavor, it will affect the texture. As much as possible, we want to be able to maintain the taste and also the texture. But we have to be, to do that, we have to really understand how to minimize the deterioration. Okay. All right, pH decline for water holding capacity, because once you change the pH, okay, you will affect the pKa. pKa is a value where you have different pH, because amino acid will cationize or anionize. Okay, you have to know this in your protein class or protein chemistry class. Okay, so if you have poor holding capacity, then you will have a softer texture, because you would lose some of the water. Okay, and also effects of processing. Okay, one is protein oxidation. You will have lipid oxidation, free fatty acid. Okay, enzymes. You will have high salt concentration. dehydration, ice crystal formation. These are the important factors that will make protein denature. Okay, once protein denature, okay, it will reduce WHC. What is WHC? Water holding capacity. Okay, when you have the WHC, then you will increase the drip because the food is losing water because it cannot hold the water anymore because the protein deteriorates and the protein denature. So when you have this dripping, losing of water, then you will have textural deterioration. So it's very important to make sure that the protein will still hold the water inside the cell or inside the tissue. Okay. This is the texture of effect of processing. Either you will have a firmer texture or you have a chunky texture. This one, I think you might learn this in a food analysis class with, I think, Dr. Nuzul. Okay, so this is hedonic scale. If you are, maybe you will do your master's project, your dissertation, some of you may do sensory evaluation. So this is how you present your data. This is called the cobweb, the cobweb of the data. Normally we have from 0 until 5, depending on your scale that you are going to use. You either use 5, 7, or 9. Okay. So if this melt rate, if the web, that means the value, this one is high value. If you go here, this one is lower value. Okay, so this is the effect of processing. You can have firmer texture, you can have chunky structure, chewy texture, rubbery, grainy, whether it is sticky, whether the texture disappears, or the melt rate, or slippery texture, or thicker texture. Okay. Normally, for food processing, we will use a texture analyzer. We have a machine to actually analyze or can calculate what is the form of texture of that particular food. Okay. This one is, you can actually get it from the consumer studies. Okay, and then we go to the aroma formation. How does aroma form? Okay, aroma can be formed through many different techniques or many different methods. One of it is through enzymatic conversion. For example, the lipid will react with lipase, and then they will form aroma because of the lipase react with the lipid. Okay. And then we will also form aroma when you have auto-oxidative degradation of FFA. FFA is the free fatty acid. Okay, free fatty acid, where you have the volatile formation of peroxide value. Then you will have the auto-oxidative degradation. So you will have this aroma. Okay. The other one is the enzymatic conversion of sulfur and also nitrogen base. Okay, this one can also form aroma such as dimethyl sulfide. Okay, and then through cooking, through heating, some of the, like I mentioned, if you want to maximize the aroma of the spices, you should fry them with oil, because oil is part of the aroma formation, because only they can help in the formation, enhance the formation of the aroma through volatiles. Okay, so through cooking you can actually form the aroma because of the heat. Okay, I think this will be the last slide for the food processing. Okay, the types of processing to reserve food for longer shelf life. It can either be thermal or non-thermal. For most of the thermal, I have covered in this slide or in this few slides before. Okay, thermal, for example, we use pasteurization. Okay, for sterilization, We use retort. Retort is a very famous or widely used sterilization technique, okay, especially for pouch food that is stored in pouch. Okay, and then now in 2023 or even before, many new methods is being introduced into food processing where we don't use thermal or we don't use heat. Okay, for example, irradiation, pulse electric field, PEF, high pressure processing, etc. and etc. Okay, so we will cover this non-thermal processing hopefully in our next slide, where I will cover a bit of each of the non-thermal processing and what are the principles. Okay. Okay, with that, I thank you very much for your attention. Hopefully you will get a take-home message for this particular food processing topic, because we know that, like I've mentioned before, when we study food science, okay, you have to understand the macro and micro components, the chemistry of it, and how it will affect the functionality is through the food processing, because in the end, you have to process the food in order to make sure that it is safe and also of quality. All right, thank you very much for your attention. And these are the reference that you can use, or you can read further reading, okay, to understand what about the slides. There are also some of the textbooks, then you can refer. Either you can get it from Amazon or you can get it from other resources. Okay, thank you very much. So this is my contact, and most of the module materials are also provided by Dr. Rozamri Ash'ari. I also provide his contact details in email. If you can, if you're interested in doing this food processing as part of your project, you can also contact Dr. Zamri. Okay, with that, I end my slide for this food processing, and have a good day.